This is the next lesson on inversions, and in this lesson we're going to talk about the second inversion on guitar or bass. And the second inversion is actually a lot easier than the first inversion because the first inversion dealt with major and minor chords, whereas, and they were different, the patterns were different. Second inversions, basically major and minor chords are exactly the same. The only one that's different is the diminished chord, but we're going to get to that. Well, for this example though, just to really be able to understand this, we're going to play that same numbered scale. Well, let's play in the key of G, but I'm going to number it a little bit differently. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in the other lessons, you saw that 7 was there, and the octave of 1 is here. But for this example, we're going to run into some issues between this G and B string. So what we're going to do is extend the 7 and 1 onto the A string here. So we'll just stretch out this 4, 5, 6. 7 is another 2 steps away from 6, and 1, the octave of 1 is right there. So we'll use this scale instead, which actually, even for all the other examples, this might be a little easier. You just have to memorize this pattern. Okay, so let me show you how this looks. Here is the 1 chord. Remember, 1 is a major. That was the third pattern, just using 2 notes, 2-note chords, the thirds. The first inversion of that was here. Basically, what you do to play a second inversion of a 1 chord major is just start on the note that you left off from the second inversion, and you just bar these 2 notes in the same fret, 1 string down together. That played together is a second inversion of the 1 major chord. Okay, now the minor is exactly the same. So let's go to the 2 chord, which is a minor. We'll go to the 2, and then we'll go play its inversion, which is right there and right here. And you go to the note that you left off on, and then you just go down 1 fret and you bar those 2 together. Play those 2 together. That would be a 2 minor second inversion. Okay, so exactly the same as the major. Now this is true for all of these. I'm going to go real quick just so that you know. 3 is here. Here's the inversion. You would play these 2. That's the 3. 4 is a major. Here's the inversion. First inversion. This is the second inversion. Five. Here's the first inversion. Here's the second inversion. Those 2. 6. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because there is going to be a little wild card here. 1 chord is not the same as the other. So 6 looks like this. Here's the first inversion, and here's the second inversion. All right, now here we come. The 7 chord. The 7 chord, you remember, out of all the different, the majors and minors, the 7th chord is a diminished. Now what that means is a diminished chord uses the notes 1, flat 3, and flat 5. It's kind of the 1 chord that's not, major or minor. It's a diminished chord, and so the pattern changes when you play the second inversion of it. So let me show you what that looks like. So from 7 here, and remember from our last lesson, 7, if you only play 2 notes as thirds uses a minor third pattern. So then you go up 3 half steps, and instead of playing the opposite of this minor pattern, which would be a major pattern because it's diminished, you play another minor pattern like this. So 2 minor patterns back to back. And normally with the other major or minor chords, in order to play second inversion, you would just go up from this note where you left off and go down 1 fret in the same fret, next string. No, I'm sorry, you don't go down 1 fret, 1 string, same fret, but that would not be correct for a 7 chord, which is a diminished. You would have to go down 1 string, and you would have to go to the right 1 fret. So the second inversion of a 7 chord looks like this. Now this will be something you'll want to absolutely memorize, that whenever you run into a 7 chord or any diminished chord, you're going to need to play it this way. Now luckily, at least in the modern worship stuff, the music that we normally play, there's hardly any diminished chord, so you won't run into this very often, but it's good to know. This is also true with chords outside of the simple numbers. So from time to time you'll run into a chord that's not 1 through 7. So an example of that, sometimes you'll run into a flat 6 chord. So if you run into a flat 6 chord, you would go find the root of the 6, go flat 1 fret, that's a flat 6 root. You remember, by default, all flat chords that are flat outside of the number system, by default are major. So you would play this as a major. You could play this first inversion by following that same rule on the last video. And you could also play the second inversion of this flat 6 chord by just applying the same rule as the other chords in the second inversion, which is just bar these 2 notes. Okay, because it's not a diminished. If it said flat 6 diminished, then that would change everything.